Okay. Hi, everybody. Hope you guys had a good evening. Today, we're going to start off our presentation. Our presentation is going to be on eating disorders, specifically in Black households. My name is Kaylee, and I'm here with my partner, John. We are with the Healing Youth Alliance, and we are in cohort 3.
Hey everybody, as Kaylee just said, my name is John Neal. I am 16 years old, a HIA ambassador, a youth advocate, a Heart Smiles ambassador, a mental health advocate, as well as many other things that I haven't listed. And I attend the Baltimore Polytechnic Institute as a junior currently. And I didn't say it in the beginning, but I hope that everybody has a good night right now. And although I don't have any personal experience with eating disorders, I am very empathetic to those that have them because I know it is a very serious issue that isn't talked about. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to present with Kaylee on this, because again, I know that it isn't something that is frequently talked about. And when it is spoke on, it isn't talked about in the right connotation. So I just want to allow just awareness to spread tonight.
Hi again. I'm 16 years old. I'm a potential HIA ambassador, a Heart Smiles ambassador, and I also attend Baltimore Polytechnic with John. We're currently juniors. I do have personal experience with the eating disorder. I am trying to find my way out of one right now. I have been dealing with this for a few months now, and I'm still learning ways on how to help myself and other people try to fight their way out of their eating disorder as well. We chose the topic specifically because of my personal experience and to shed some light on others that are going through problems with their eating disorders as well. And we want to make sure you guys know what eating disorder is, how to treat it, and how you can help others that are dealing with one. So first, we're going to do a quick check-in for everyone in the chat or a reaction button. First, how is everybody feeling today? And do you know anyone with eating disorder? You can put a thumbs up or thumbs down on your reaction, or you can type in the chat and I'll read it aloud. And in the chat, you can also put one thing that made you smile today.
While everybody is answering, I will just share out loud. I'm feeling great today. I was feeling a little nervous before we got on the live. For those of you that don't know, right before we started on this live, we all got together and we kind of just tried to uplift each other because we know that the nervous energy was really spreading. And I feel great after talking to my fellow candidates. And as of right now, I'm just excited to get into it with you guys and be able to just talk about it with no restriction.
Okay, in the chat, we have, good evening, everybody. We have that we all made you smile. That's really nice to hear. Yeah, it's really common for people to have eating disorder. So you may or may not, you may know somebody that has one and you might not even know, but that's what we're here to help and to show you guys. Patrice said she's feeling good today and she has a family member that suffers from eating disorder as well. It's so good to hear from everybody. I like to put this out right here. Later on in the presentation, we're going to be doing a Kahoot. So if everyone want to get ready before we do the Kahoot, you go to kahoot.it and later on in the presentation, we'll give you the code so we can all play together.
All right, so before we get started, I do just want to let everybody know that I do want to give a quick trigger warning, me and Kaylee both, because we do realize that this is a really, really horrible topic that isn't really talked about, as I said in the beginning. However, we do need to realize that people in this room may actually have that experience, such as Kaylee, and for some people, it may just trigger some feelings or some unwanted emotions to resurface. So if you guys need a minute to step away or just take some time, a minute to yourself, we definitely want to let you have that. We don't want to really overbear anybody with this topic. It's just an informative session, sorry. So first, we're going to start off with what an eating disorder is, because before we even dive into it, we definitely need to know what it is in order to unpack it. And so it's an unhealthy correlation between eating, exercise, and negative self-image. And some of the symptoms are that it causes fluctuations in weight gain or weight loss. Just reiterating to anybody in here that it can go either way, weight gain or weight loss. So I know weight loss is typically characterized with anorexia, but I do want to let everybody know that it can go both ways. And since anorexia and bulimia are characterized with weight loss, we typically try to forget about the weight gain. So just telling everybody that it can go either way. And then dizziness or fainting, that's also one of the most common symptoms when you're dealing with an eating disorder: irregular muscle weaknesses and dry skin, hair, and brittle nails. This is due to your body not getting the proper nutrients that it needs to be able to function, and therefore just not being able to go to your full functionality as a human should be able to be. Next, we're going to talk about the traits of eating disorders. It is typically discovered in adolescence and continued through adulthood. Again, just reiterating to everyone that this is the specific time period that we have researched ourselves, and how it develops through adolescence into adulthood. However, it can be developed at different ages. I know later in the presentation, we will talk about how it is developed at an infant's age, or maybe even at senior age. It can be developed at any time during your lifetime. However, this is specifically what we have researched, that it can start in adolescence and continue through adulthood. It is more prevalent in females, predominantly white. And as I will speak on later in the presentation too, a lot of Black women do deal with the exact same issue, but it isn't publicized as much, and therefore we don't see it as much. And so the statistics tell us that it's predominantly white. And then the feeling of failure to meet the norms of body standards. So just feeling that you don't necessarily fit in with everybody else. I know later in the presentation, we will talk about how Black girls do not feel as robust in their sense of self because of what society tells them a body should look like, typically through predominantly white girls. And then lastly, unsatisfactory feelings of body shape or size. We all have to realize that depression and anxiety is still a main thing in our nation today, especially with young Black males and females. We all have some form of depression or anxiety, in my opinion. And therefore, I feel like we do have to realize that there doesn't have to be a specific trigger for eating disorder to occur, but typically it is.
So in this slide, we're going to be talking about the eating disorders in Black women versus men. As you guys can see in the picture of the Black woman over here, Black women are discouraged from revealing their curves, and you mainly see this in advertisements and in commercials or even in TV shows, that Black women, they tend to cover up their body, or they try to lose more weight to have like the more skinny figure you would see in majority of magazines. You would see a white girl who is skinny, who has curves, or like a slim waist, and that's really what you see in a lot of advertisements. And in a Calvin Klein ad recently, we had our first plus size woman on the Calvin Klein ad, a Black woman, might I add. And that was the first thing that happened for the Black community in a big advertisement like that on a billboard. And we also like to add Black men in here because it's most people don't talk about Black men if they have eating disorder, and they deal with this too. So we wanted to add that in there, that Black men are expected to display a tone, very muscular physique. And as you can see over here, the Black man is usually tries to overwork himself in the gym and over exercising. He doesn't let his body rest, because you would see in a lot of magazines, you would see a white man modeling these clothes and his body that you would see in most of the ads you would see. Some warning signs of eating disorders are adopting excessively restrictive diets, so limiting yourself to the carbs and the calories and the sugars that you eat and the fats and fatty foods. Some other symptoms or warning signs are intentional inducing of nausea, so that could you making yourself throw up, or your body making yourself throw up from not eating or eating too much. Verbal negative imagery concerning weight, that could come from family members or even people you call friends, or people out in public, or a teacher or other classmates making comments about your weight and how you look and how your body is, which can lead to someone having an eating disorder because of all these negative comments that they're getting. And they could develop body dysmorphia from that, seeing things that really aren't even there, and their body is already beautiful the way it is. Excessive exercise. So it's like I said in the slide before, the Black man is overworking himself, and the Black man is overworking himself in the gym and working out. And you will see that in a woman as well, for her trying to get the skinny figure that she would like, or constantly claiming that you're not hungry, which can also tie into the inducing of nausea from restraining yourself eating the foods that you would normally eat, from like the sugars and the carbs and such. And frequent trips in the bathroom can also tie into the nausea of you making yourself throw up. So all of these warning signs, they all tie together as one because they're all signs of eating disorders. And if you notice some things when I brought these up, you may have thought of a friend or a family member that you know who are dealing with some things, and you may have not noticed it at first. And now with these warning signs, you have an idea in your head that maybe, hey, you can reach out and help a friend or family member out in need.
All right, so next we're actually going to dive deep into what the eating disorders actually are for tonight. Just so you guys know, there are four. I will be going over anorexia at this moment. So anorexia nervosa, monotonously known as anorexia, is characterized by a dramatically low calorie intake. So this is just restricting your diet excessively. And I think the way that we categorize anorexia, at least for me, I would say is based on what your mindset is, because I do think a lot of people kind of misconstrue what a healthy mindset versus developing anorexia actually is. And therefore, I would think someone who just genuinely wants to be healthy, wants to have a better diet, have a better exercising type of habit, that's just specifically trying to be healthy. But anorexia is just, like characterizing your diet and the way that you eat in a way to where as though specifically you wouldn't want to eat for days, you would starve yourself or not eat for, I would say, just throwing the number out there, 12 hours at a time, something like that. um Obviously to everyone here that would seem kind of excessive. Usually we eat 3 times a day, but a lot of people with anorexia feel as though they don't need to do that. um and they do, obviously, but just kind of diving deep into what the mindsets are for the two, just letting you guys know that you can't misconstrue the two. And then an unwarranted fear of being overweight. So I know a lot of times for myself, it was kind of the opposite for me. I know a lot of my family members, or even sometimes some of my friends, would specifically tell me that I look like a quote unquote pencil or a stick or a small tree or something like that, because the way that my metabolism is set up, I don't typically gain weight at a fast pace like some of my other friends do. Um, and for me, it was an unwarranted fear of being underweight. And I actually meant to put that on this slide also, that it can be categorized with underweight too. However, I just want to share that with you guys, that it can go either way with that also. And then mild to severe starvation, as I was saying earlier with the first bullet point, just restricting your diet to where as though you feel like you don't need to eat for days, or just 12 hours at a time. Anything that really surpasses not eating 2 or 3 meals a day at least, could be characterized with anorexia. And then some possible triggers of this are the dissatisfaction with the scale reading. Again, just a quick story about myself. After my friends had told me that I looked like these very, very skinny figures, when I stepped on the scale, I was very, very surprised with what I saw. I thought that I was actually more than what I saw, and it kind of confirmed what they were saying about me in my own head. And it kind of developed habits that were similar to anorexia, but weren't categorized with anorexia. And then lastly, verbal discouragement, just anything coming from a family member or a friend or even somebody that you don't even know, just telling you that you look a specific way that would be seen as derogatory, in terms of body shape or image, that can kind of breed the habits of anorexia also. So just realizing that everything on this list can be characterized with anorexia or just kind of synonymous with it. Just make sure that you carry that with you and you're very, very sensitive to those that you think may have it. Next, we're going to talk about bulimia, which is mostly the same thing, but however, with some differences. This one is characterized by binge eating, followed by methods to reduce weight gain. So some examples of these are overeating, over-exercising, vomiting, or the abuse of diet pills. And may I add that diet pills, if you are using diet pills and you're using this as a method to develop bulimia, then this can be considered as drug abuse. And I just wanted to let everybody know that. And then these methods are usually unorthodox and dangerous. If you're self-inducing your own nausea, of course, it's very, very dangerous. It can cause a lot of different teeth issues, as I said before, dry skin, hair, brittle nails, anything of that nature. It can cause all of those things, which can affect your functionality. And then the causes of these are conflicting psychological issues. So this is just a very, very complex way of just saying, as I was saying earlier, depression, anxiety, PTSD, any other mental health issues that can kind of breed these unhealthy coping mechanisms, such as developing bulimia, and then genetics. Maybe your mother had anorexia, maybe your father was bulimic, maybe your grandmother had rumination disorder, or your aunt may have had Pika disorder. Just any of those other eating disorders that may fall within your family tree. Make sure that you start to look down the line if you are suspicious of someone else having an eating disorder that is characterized with this or any of the other ones that we have mentioned. And then lastly, peer pressure. I know a lot of times, especially with adolescents, as we're coming up, we just want to fit in. And specifically with some of my other friends, they are a little bit more heavier set, and therefore they have kind of gone back to these methods that we've mentioned so far, or just habits that have been synonymous with them, and therefore they've developed other psychological issues such as depression, anxiety, some of the other things I had mentioned. So just being aware of that also. Next, we actually have a video for you guys. It's called Black People Don't Have Eating Disorders. And this video kind of unpacks the way that Black people specifically think about eating disorders and how they want to characterize it within their own minds. So just kind of getting a perspective from people of our race. 1 second. I do actually have to pull it up for you guys. 1 second. Switch. Let me know in the chat if everybody can see it, or just put a thumbs up for me. But I'm gonna go ahead and get started.
Bulimia, anorexia, things like that. Just take a look at some of the healthy girls out here and let me know if you see any ultra skinny model types walking around.
It's rare. That's more what white people think, no lie.
An eating disorder makes creating a habit of not eating. The environment that we live in just doesn't call for a habit of not eating.
I feel like I have severe issues with food. Growing up in my family, although no one called things eating disorders, I feel like there are food issues. The reason I would say it that way is that they don't necessarily fall cleanly into the necessarily binge and purge or anorexic eating disorder models that we're familiar with.
I do think that a lot of times Black people deal with their problems by eating. So in the sense that an eating disorder can be excessive eating, then I definitely think that Black folk can have eating disorders.
Most of my family has an eating disorder, but it happens to be that they eat unhealthily to the point that they're morbidly obese. Eating is how we show love in our community, and it goes way overboard.
Black people are not as prone to it because the body image is a lot different in the Black community. We really value curves. Teenage Caucasian females is what I think of.
I attempted bulimia when I was probably 9. My ballet teacher had a meeting with my mom and I. She said how talented I was, but I was too fat to be in her company. I remember hearing some of the girls in my ballet class, they were older, they were white, were talking about a specific school in the city that they were having plumbing issues because of so many girls vomiting in the toilet. I heard them talking about how they did it. That's when I got the brilliant idea of, well, I'm going to try that too. That was the beginning of a very dysfunctional relationship with food.
There was a time when African American girls were more robust in their sense of self and much less likely to suffer from disordered eating. And what we've seen is that African American girls are now becoming increasingly more likely to suffer from disordered eating. And this seems to be a kind of post-integration experience. Young Black girls going to school in environments that give them sort of very strong messages about normative body types that African American girls have a difficult time getting into.
All right, you guys, that was our video for us to show you. So I'm just gonna kind of unpack what we've heard in the video so far. So for example, I heard the scientists specifically at the end talking about how eating disorders was within Black women was more so a post-integration experience with Black girls going to school and not really feeling up to par with how the white women or the white girls were looking. And so I also heard within the Black girl specific experience, the Black ballerina, she was denied the opportunity to be able to dance in a white woman's company just because she was quote unquote too fat to join the company or too heavy set. And obviously this is a very, very discriminatory experience, but we do have to kind of look back at the roots to see exactly why things of this sort are happening. And I mentioned those two specific experiences or what we saw in the video specifically, I mentioned those two segments because there's kind of a correlation between the two. I see that after Black women were kind of seen with this integration, not even really just in schools, but within businesses, within churches, within any type of neighborhoods that had integration back then, they wanted to achieve or look like the white woman because that was what was seen as ideal within society, and therefore they kind of just wanted to achieve or look that way while hurting themselves in the process. And obviously they didn't know that back then. But that's what the Healing with Alliance is here to specifically do. We shed light on these specific issues that Black people go through. It just so happened that specifically this specific experience just happened to be due to the integration between white and Black women, not specifically just downing all white women for any of these experiences. It's just like with any other human. When you're exposed to something specific, you typically want to correlate or adapt yourself to that specific experience, no matter what it is. So not specifically blaming white women, but kind of just giving you guys the whole picture of describing what the roots are and why the causes of specifically why we have the rising numbers in eating disorders now. That was the purpose of the video. Next, we're going to talk about being Black and bulimic, what the experience is a little bit further. Diving a little bit deeper, we realized that Black teenagers are 50% more likely than white teenagers to exhibit bulimic behavior, such as binging and purging. And then clinicians are less likely to recommend that Black women should receive professional help. As I said earlier, we typically see commercialized white models, specifically white women models, always in the media about being typically having a quote unquote stick figure or just an extremely skinny figure, and how they got there and their processes. And I know a lot of white women have actually worked to, like exercise and achieve that body type, but a lot of them have also engaged in some of the eating disorders that we have mentioned tonight. And so that's what's in the media and that's what's characterized within the media. However, Black women do not receive the exact same attention within the media. And I feel like we do suffer just as much as white women do, or at least that specific community does suffer specifically with white women also. However, due to what's characterized in the media, we don't see it as much. And that's why clinicians who basically go only on the numbers, and what they see, it isn't typically their fault, but they typically only ask white women because that's typically what they see.
I'd like to tie in on this last one, where Black people with self-acknowledged eating and weight concerns are significantly less likely than whites to be asked by a doctor about eating disorder symptom. And I'd like to add on to this one because of my personal experience with my doctor. And when my doctor had finally noticed that I was going through my eating disorder, and it was really bad because I had a major weight loss. And it took my doctor a while to finally realize that my weight was dropping really fast and really a lot at once. And then a lot of time went by until my doctor had finally did something about it, gave me checkups, and then finally gave me a list of things to eat and how I can help my eating disorder and how I can gain more weight. And I feel like if I know that I went through that with my doctor, my personal experience, that there are other Black people or Black girls out there who felt a little concerned. I feel like they didn't get as much concern as they wanted or needed when dealing with their eating disorder and the help that they needed to go through theirs. We're going to talk about rumination disorder, and it is a rare condition associated with the regulation of food. And some examples of this are rechewing, swallowing, or spitting out your food. And it's mostly common in toddlers or infants or babies because they're still learning what they like and what they don't like, and they are still developing. And it's also really common in children with intellectual disabilities, and because of the way that they have their own process of learning and learning what they like, or it could be they could be have like a deformed face where they can't really chew correctly, and it could be other things going on at home where the baby isn't eating the correct food or can't chew properly or is hurt. There are other things that could tie into this. And as you can see, it's really common in children because you don't really see this in adults unless they also have their own disability. And some causes of this could be an illness or, like I said, a disability, emotional stress, or a physical injury. So physical injury could come from the home, or the baby going through or the baby could injure themselves. And for rechewing, they could like rechew it and spit it out. That's what they do together because, like I said before, they're still learning what they like. Or they could be force fed, or the parent is trying to force the baby to eat something that they're not supposed to eat, or the baby doesn't like.
All right, next we're gonna move on to Pika disorder, which is the craving of things that aren't specifically food. And some examples of these are paper, glue, dirt, buttons, etc. And I do just want to reiterate to everyone on here specifically, this is what we have specifically researched, just these four that I just mentioned. However, this can go on to many, many other objects that aren't food that are being consumed. These are just the main four that we have researched and we actually put on the presentation. And the three or more types, such as geophagia, which is the consumption of soil or clay, pagophagia, which is the consumption of ice, and amyophagia, which is the consumption of starch. And some causes of these are pregnancy, disability, or schizophrenia. Pregnancy, we know a lot of women crave different things. I know my mother, when she was pregnant with me, she specifically craved Chinese food, according to my father at least. And just other things of that nature. However, you do have women who crave things like paper or bottles or just anything that isn't food. I know it sounds very, very outlandish and just out there, but this is a real thing. And I do just want to reiterate the two pictures that I've added on the right. The man at the top is eating tissue paper, and the little boy at the bottom is eating what looks like dirt. And I put these two specifically because I want us to actually recognize that it's obvious that the man at the top knows what he's doing, what his objective really is, and that's to eat what he specifically seems like he likes, which is toilet paper or paper towels, exactly what it is. And then the little boy at the bottom, he's eating dirt. And I do want to recognize that the toddler doesn't specifically know exactly what food is. They're trying to get a feel for what they like. We all know toddlers, they just put anything in their mouths because they're curious. However, when you're a child, or pretty much anything older than that, adolescent, adult, senior, you know exactly what food is, and you know right from wrong when it comes to actually eating food. So it's, what I'm saying is basically it is more common to be able to diagnose an adult with Pika disorder because we know that they know better, whereas though a toddler doesn't know right from wrong when it comes to food. So just reiterating that for you guys, it's probably more accurate to be able to get um, a clinician to actually read and diagnose a toddler rather than an adult.
Hey everybody, I'm just talking to y'all, but like I said earlier in the presentation, we're gonna start our Kahoot game. So let's get that started. Go to www.kahoot.it. And we're gonna begin our Kahoot. I'm gonna share my screen. Everybody can see? Thumbs up in the chat if you can see. Okay. So my partner is gonna put the pin in the chat for all of you to join.
All right, we're gonna get started. You guys can drop in as soon as you guys actually have the link up. I've put the game pin in the chat, so whenever you guys feel free to actually join in, just feel free to join in whenever you feel.
I'm gonna give it 10 more seconds for a few others to join in. Okay. Looks like about everybody in here. So like I said, y'all can join in at any time. The game's gonna begin now. So the Kahoot is basically on everything that we talked about on eating disorders. So first question we did in the beginning, what is an eating disorder? I hope y'all like the music. I thought it was pretty interesting. Oh, y'all paying attention. That's really good to see. Okay, on the leaderboard we have Taylor. Okay, this is a true or false question. Traits of eating disorders are typically discovered during adolescence and continue through adulthood. Is this true or false? Now, who said false? Because that really hurt me right there. Okay, next one. Oh, Taylor dropped out on the leaderboard. Must have been Taylor. Come on now. Okay. Next, we have, what are the warning signs of an eating disorder? This is a trick question, so really pay attention to this one. Okay. We had one person get that wrong, but that is completely okay. We are all learning together. So what is anorexia? We have some symptoms in here. We have warning signs. What do we have in here? Listen, it's okay. We're all learning together. The majority of y'all got that right, and I'm proud of y'all. Okay, at the top we have John with a streak. Different John. Okay, are Black teenagers more likely than white teenagers to exhibit bulimic behavior? Okay, so y'all were paying attention, okay. Oh, we got someone coming up on the leaderboard. Okay, what is rumination disorder? Another trick question for y'all. We have a definition and we have some warning signs and some symptoms. Okay, good job, everybody. Okay, what is Pika disorder? Last one. Oh, congratulations, everybody got that right. Okay, we have our last question for everybody. Did you enjoy the Kahoot? Honesty, we love honesty. I'm glad all of you love the Kahoot. Let's see who we have on our podium. Okay, third place we have Simone. Second place we have Vashti. I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong. We have my partner John. Yes. I mean, he should know the material. He should know the material. Okay, this was very fun to play with you guys.
All right. I mean, like she's right. I should know my stuff. But it seems like a lot of you guys, we were dropping in and out of the scoreboard. So you guys definitely knew your stuff too. thanks for everybody for playing. I hope you guys enjoyed that. We are running extremely low on time, so I'm going to try to get through this really quickly so you guys can ask any questions y'all want to at the end. But healing-centered engagement is a method which is a collective support method to assist trauma-affected individuals, and it highlights the ways trauma and healing are experienced as a whole. So again, just kind of reinforcing that unity, that method to be able to incorporate everybody and their trauma together to be able to talk about it and be able to move forward. And then it identifies the root causes of trauma within communities, neighborhoods, and groups. So just recognizing that there are specific groups that do typically experience at least some of the same things. And since they experience some of the same things being in the same communities, they're able to relate to each other. I'm sorry. And that's basically what healing center engagement is. Technical difficulties.
So my partner is trying to figure out the technical difficulties. I'll go back to healing session engagement. And it's basically a community-centered engagement discussing how you guys can learn and grow together. And as a community, as we see in this picture here, we have all of our Black people, all different tones, all with the culture. So I'll put this quote here where we are more than an individual trauma. And what this means is that we can't let our trauma that we went through define us. It only makes us stronger, and it only builds us together as a whole. And we grow together and we learn together, which is what the Kahoot really showed, that we're all learning together and we all learn at different rates. And that's completely okay. And at the bottom, we have Ubuntu, which is a Black discovered concept that relies on culture, civic action, and collective healing. And the culture, as you know, our Black people, we have our own culture. Our civic action is what we are learning to do, and to go through our trauma and to heal and to grow. And a collective healing is how we're healing together as a community. And it's mainly about the growth that you see in yourself and in your community together as a whole.
All right, so specifically with healing center engagement, we do need to recognize that there needs to be specific methods, sub-methods to be able to achieve healing center engagement. And something that me and Kaylee have came up with is that we need to accept all body types, the acceptance of all body types, and it's crucial to progression and unity within the community. And also, you guys, just encouraging bodily self-love within ourselves. I know a lot of people, again, as I was saying, deal with depression, anxiety, PTSD, etc. And it starts to breed some of those eating disorders or habits that are synonymous with them. So just encouraging them to love their body and how they look, support groups with an appropriate mixture of various body types and weights, anorexia, anorexic people, bulimic people, people with rumination disorder, skinny, heavier set people, just anybody that fits into the community, being able to share their experiences makes them feel less alone. Social media hashtags being a main form of communication. I know specifically for adolescents, that's what we use on a daily basis. So we can help spread the word a little bit more quickly. And then Black community promotion, typically within Black middle and high schools and also HBCUs. As I was saying earlier, eating disorders within the Black community isn't specifically talked about. So being able to have that open space for Black men and women and young people to be able to express themselves in that sort of nature is extremely important.
Here we have all of our references and where we got all of our information. So feel free to take a screenshot or write down these websites and these links that we used to get all of our information from. They're very reliable sources. If you have any more questions, you can go there, or you can reach out to us. And at the bottom, we have an eating disorder treatment center in Baltimore, Maryland. The number is 720-928-3605. So feel free to note that down as well for someone that you think may need the help. It's a really good treatment center, 5 out of 5 stars. So I really recommend that place for everybody to take note of. And here we have a self-reflection question for everybody. And what would you do with the resources given to you regarding the links in the treatment center and the information we provided for you, and how will you apply them to help educate yourself or someone else in the future? You can put that in the chat, or you can think to yourself. So thank you for listening, everybody. We really appreciate the time that you put in to join us today and listening to us. So we really appreciate that. Here we have the Healing Youth Alliance email and the Healing Youth Alliance Instagram. So feel free to take note of that as well. And thank you, Miss Eaton, in the chat. Um, so yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for giving us your time.
All right, I just want to say myself to you guys, thank you for enjoying this very, 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 very long presentation. I know it was very, very long, and there was a lot of information that you guys didn't specifically know before, but I hope that everybody learns something specifically new. And as Kaylee said, our Instagrams and our email is definitely right here in the presentation. So if you guys want to take a screenshot or anything of that nature, feel free to do so. Any questions, comments, and concerns, make sure to definitely hit us up at those two links that you see on the presentation. I'll stick around for a minute or so if you guys have any questions, but if not, make sure you head back to the Heart Smiles link that we were on originally. And I hope everybody else has a good night.
Before everybody leaves, please don't forget to click on the link in the chat for our feedback. So we really appreciate it if you guys could give us feedback on our presentation. Again, thank you all for coming. I'm reading the chat right now. Thank you so much, everybody. So as you're leaving, you could go back to the YouTube link.